Hi, welcome to another episode of the FM Channel podcast. My name is Claudio Rojas. I am one of the co-owners and senior recruiters at Alex Young Recruitment. Today, I am joined by Adam Mason. Adam, welcome to the show.
No, thank you for having me.
No worries, thanks for coming on. Now, I'm very excited to have Adam on the show because the previous 11 episodes that we've done, or that I've done, everybody that I've spoken to has always fallen into FM, whereas Adam chose to be in FM. And so I'm keen to hear your story. But first, if you could maybe just give us an intro as to what you do now and who you do it for.
Yeah, so obviously I'm Adam Mason. I'm currently the Facilities Operations Director for Expansive Solutions.
Yeah.
I've been with the business for a year, coming up to a year, under contract, helping them design, build and bring to the market a brand new CAFM platform. So really exciting about how to build a brand, how to engage with the FM community around getting interest and understanding about what we're trying to do. So we've done a lot of podcast interviewing a lot of people ourselves, webinars and all sorts. So it's been a really good, but as we know, COVID hit us halfway through. So again, we suddenly had to adapt and change our marketing strategies to online. But previous to that, I had the great pleasure of being facilities director for Pure Gym. Doing a big transformation on their maintenance function, and then before that was at B&Q. So I've had lots of time and experience in the FM industry.
Great stuff. Good. So let's go back to the beginning. So you didn't fall into FM. You chose the sector.
Yeah.
How and why did that happen?
Yeah.
Big open-ended question, I guess.
Yeah, it's huge. So I'll give you a bit of sort of my blotted past, I guess.
Yeah.
So I went to college, studied motor vehicle mechanics, came out, started working in a garage, parts department, decided it wasn't for me. Went to the job centre when the job centre was kind of the job centre, and got a job as office junior. They had in those times at Blue Circle pensions. Did lots of things there, went into finance, got qualified with my MAAT at the time, and then sort of moved around a bit into some really, really good jobs. So into computer sales, because that was a big thing when I was sort of younger, into the alarm and security industry, and then into sort of water movement pumps and getting into those sort of building sites. And I sort of realised I'd had a number of really, really good jobs, but hadn't sort of focused on a career. And so I was looking through an area to sort of bring all those skills together. So what needed sort of a financial background, a practical piece of knowledge, motor vehicles and buildings and things like that, putting things together, fixing things. And facilities management came up. And at that point, I'm like, I wonder what that is. I'm not sure it was probably a Google search. It was probably more like a Yahoo search at that point.
Yeah. So did you physically go out and start typing this in to search? Did you do a search for it, or did you kind of say, right, these are my skills, let me have a think about it, where have I what departments have I worked in? Or was it did that research?
Yeah, so I literally was putting in sort of building knowledge, financial knowledge, seeing what was kind of coming up on literally on the Google searches at the time. Yahoo searches probably.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because lots of things come up. So can I go back into pensions? Do I follow on with my accounts? Et cetera, et cetera. And at the bottom of this, when I searched it, facilities management, as I say, just popped up.
Wow.
I'm like, what is facilities management? So I clicked on it and I'm like, okay, so you need to like people and customer service. And I do. So talk hind legs off a donkey sometimes. So yeah, absolutely. I like that. Financial background. Yeah. So budget management, planning. Great. Project management through the water industry, understanding, I had the great pleasure of working in hotels like the Lanesborough and changing their ducting systems and their water pump systems. So I was like, understood what real project management was around. But sort of pulled all those together and started looking at it. Came up against the BIFM.
Yeah.
Went on their sort of introduction 2-day course at the time, and I was like, I really like this. I think this pulls all of the things I've learned through all the different working environments that I've been in into one place. And as I started exploring more and more and more, I realized that I kind of had the mindset for it as well. I had that kind of, that black and white sort of, here's the journey A to B. So this broken, let's fix it. Let's build strategy. And then you learn as it goes on. But when I put all those together, I then applied for my first facilities management job.
Right. Okay.
And that was
Who
all
was that with?
So it was with Inditex.
And what do they do?
So they were Zara, Massimo Dutti, big retail business.
Right. Okay.
I'm trying to think. Yes, sort of had about 160, 70 shops, I think, at that point. So it was a big first facilities management job, but I was their first ever facilities manager in the UK. And, so I was learning all the time. Even at that point, I didn't realize facilities management would include purchasing of utilities as an example on that sort of foundation. But, so it grew. So I ended up having to really learn my skills while I was in role, and I was really lucky to do so, and carried on doing qualifications. So health and safety qualifications through that point, more qualifications through the BIFM at the time. And it was amazing because I didn't fall into it. This is the thing. I put all my skills together, went and looked that I thought could offer me a long-term career. I was offered a project job for a company in Basingstoke at the time that were putting motorway signs up, which was a lot more money, I have to be honest, very much closer to home. But I'd applied for these 3 facilities managers jobs, and I got the one, as everyone calls it, Zara at the time. And I'm like, it's less money, it's going to cost me more to get there, but actually I think this is going to be something that's going to last my lifetime rather than just be another job, I guess is the term.
So you went with your gut instinct. And I guess, I don't know what year this was, but I'm guessing it sounds like it was when facilities management was probably still emerging, I guess, when it was still kind of being formed, and people were, because if you didn't know that certain things fell into FM and that was your responsibility, a lot of these places didn't know that FM existed either, or that I think we need an FM. We need to, give this to somebody. This is a role. So was it still an emerging kind of industry back then?
I think, I mean, personally, I think so. I mean, this was in 2010, I think.
10 years ago?
No, it was longer ago than that. 2007, sorry, 2007. So, I mean, that's, for my mind, it was still really young. It was really dominated with engineering skill being the primary focus. I think at that point, I couldn't find one that didn't say I had to be a qualified engineer. And I suppose motor vehicle mechanics is a qualified engineer, but it's nothing to do with buildings.
Nothing to do with fan coil units and air handling units.
No, exactly. So it was that. So it was still that really era, and I guess when I came out to sort of look at the market, I was going to the BIFM conferences and going into the Major Energy Users Council at the time. I was very much confronted with an older style sort of choice of career. But I could see some just emergence of people sort of trying to push the boundaries of FM. So I think we were just coming into that point where we now see it expanding into something that businesses kind of really value and has a huge impact. It was still predominantly around maintenance at that point, not predominantly around workplace. But as I've gone through, obviously it's become much more about, for me, it's become much more about sort of people and workplace rather than just maintenance.
Yeah, sure. Great stuff. And what do you love about the industry? I mean, what did you kind of um, how has it changed as well? I guess over the years since you entered the industry to now. Um, yeah,
So what have I loved? This might make me sound really sad, but what is there not to love about helping people achieve what they want to achieve?
yeah,
It's one of those. I use the analogy with friends and things. I'm not intelligent enough to be a doctor,
hmm,
and they go and save lives and they help people.
yeah,
But actually, when you spend an awful amount of your own time and your own life in the workplace, we can help a lot of people have a much nicer experience. And that's what I love about it. I
mm,
love understanding something that's not working, or making someone's journey more difficult and producing something that helps them. And that really, really is sort of the enjoyment. I mean, what's better than going around all of these different locations, asking what's wrong, how can I help, and then being able to provide them with a solution to that problem.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
It's fun. It's great. I mean, it's funny. There's a obvious pattern, or it's a reoccurring answer that a lot of people give me is that I just love helping people. I love solving a problem. And everybody who I've interviewed so far, whether they're from an engineering background or from a postering background or administrator, they all say the same thing. I just want to help people. I just kind of really enjoy solving people's problems, and
yeah,
so they can have a better day, So it's
we are. Some people seem to be ashamed, and I think that's the right word, about being in a service industry and supporting other people.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's such an amazing thing, and something that it's just really nice to be able to do. You sit sort of in the heart of a business, and if you collaborate and you work with all the people around you and they understand the value that you can bring, the discussions and the projects you can get involved with are sort of endless and exciting, and it's different every day. But you've got to like people, you've got to like helping people, and let's be honest, you've got to try and make things simpler for everyone that's using your service.
yeah,
um, and that's what I enjoy.
cool.
And
What do you
what do I think?
dislike?
Go on, sorry.
But yeah, I was going to say, what do you dislike? But yeah, you're right. I did ask you two questions in one. How's it changed over the last kind of 13, 14 years you've been in it?
Well, I think it's very much gone from engineering to service,
Hmm.
and service with people in mind. I think if I look at the biggest change, when I first joined, facilities was really much around maintenance and
Yeah,
maintenance management, compliance, not so much about well-being, creating great spaces and aligning those great spaces and with business output and profit and everything else. So I think that's the biggest change I've seen
hmm,
in FM. It's kind of just a natural maturing cycle within a business, that I think that we've seen grow. I think people have come into the industry with a lot more wider experiences as well. So the great thing about people falling into an industry is their background is not the industry.
yeah, it's
So
true.
whether they actually chose to make the career change into it, they've studied it all through university and college. We are such a collective, sort of diverse community now.
Yeah,
And when I started, I don't think we were. And I think that's probably one of the biggest drivers for the changes as well.
yes, yeah, no, I agree actually. I think it was Colin Kimber who said something quite similar, is that when you go to networking events or you see the people from the industry, we're all from different backgrounds, and it's great, and it's that what actually kind of fuels the sector itself, is having that kind of diversity, and different backgrounds. Everyone's working alongside each other, but with the main goal to kind of to problem solve, to help, and to kind of create solutions.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever find ourselves pigeonholed as well.
Yeah,
So, 1 minute you're with the IT team, the next minute you're with HR, the next minute you're with your financial colleagues, your operations, your retail teams. You're a really good FM gets involved in every single department, not to lead, but to understand their pain points, understand what it is that they can help with within their remit, and build something that helps the other departments lead what they're doing.
Yes.
HR want to do a wellbeing strategy. There's a lot what FM need to do within that. FM can bring the wellbeing strategy to HR and say, this is what we think is going to have a really good impact. We'd like your support. And so I think, as I say, I've always put it that we sit right in the heart of the business.
Yes.
And we can make other people's dreams and strategies come true, because we're kind of the people that are also really practical.
Yes.
Really resourceful. So yeah. You quickly said, what about the downsides?
What do you dislike about the industry? Yeah.
So I think so overall, I think the downside is that we still have this two-tier respect level within businesses. So some really understand the value of FM and what it can bring, and we still see that that's not the case in some businesses and some sectors. I think we've got to still be able to tell our journey and come slightly more commercially focused on what we're doing. And what I don't like seeing is when I'm going into some of these businesses where people don't kind of respect the kind of work that we do and the level that people the amount of time people have to put in. These people's work-life balance is completely out of whack, and businesses don't support them with bringing in the processes and procedures like technology to start reducing the impact. So they're quite happy to allow people to take phone calls 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night for emergency situations when they've got a supply chain. They could put a CAFM in, it could be automated through. And sometimes I find our own community doesn't help themselves by, pushing that, because we're kind of one of the business's emergency services as well. We are the ones that turn up when things have gone wrong. But this is not all cases, this isn't casting aspersions across everything.
Sure.
But in some cases, people don't come and ask us how to stop that from happening. They just only come to us when it's happened.
Yes.
And then there's a lot of time and effort and money gone into it, because you're having to deal with something that could have been prevented, in all honesty, by using the right processes, technology, investing correctly in FM. So I still think there's two camps. Just find it really disappointing when I have conversations with senior leaders that don't get it. And I still think we've got to clarify what we do and clarify that in what value we drive into any business that gets FM right.
Because it's like educating them that prevention is better than cure. But then if it's never happened to them, they're like, well, really, it's going to cost us money. It's not going to make us any money. Well, let's just see how we go, kind of thing. You just kind of carry on until it does go tits up, and then this is the bill. There you go. This is what we have to do. We have to be reactive.
We've got so many cases to learn from when it goes wrong that we shouldn't now have to wait for it to go wrong.
Yeah.
But, obviously I can't go into details, but I've had one of those discussions really recently where they're still managing off Excel. They've got a big estate, can't confirm compliance in a basic sense, and they were just quite happy with where they were, because nothing had gone wrong. And it's a really difficult conversation to kind of, because you also, when you have those conversations, you're not wanting to put a gun to someone's head and say, by the way, here's your legal requirement. Tell me which part of this you're doing, because you're not actually doing any of it. And the outcome's going to be X. It takes time to sort of go through their questions. And the best thing is to get all the reasons they feel like that out. Don't answer them back. Build the plan, answer all their questions, and then go back to them. And I think this is where the commerciality comes into it. You know, trying to work out how it's hurting them by not doing it, and their side of the business, and then tell them what good looks like.
Yes.
And being able to show them that picture and the transformation and the journey. And as I say, commerciality, I think, is something we've got to get much stronger at.
Okay, cool. And have you always worked in-house? Have you ever worked for a contractor, for a service provider at all?
No, so, well, this is my first time out of client FM. So it's been really interesting. I now have a much greater respect for all of the service providers out there. And I guess all of the business development guys that are, and girls that are working out in the field as well. I think when you're in-house, you're obviously in control of your strategy, what you're doing, and you try and fit people into that to build a really diverse sort of team, and then suppliers that complement you. I remember going back to when we started the B&Q partnership program, and we had great suppliers, great in-house team, and it was really, really good because they knew who we were, what we wanted. We met with them a lot. We all had really good relationships with them. And that kind of thing is key to success, I think. My next move, because obviously I'm in the contract at the moment with Expansive, which finishes on middle of January, I think it is. It's really interesting now because I'm getting offers to go back into client side, which I love, and it's where I'm sort of born into in my FM career. But now I'm getting offers and discussions with suppliers as well, which is really interesting because I think there is a bit of a people don't cross over. You either sit in client side or you do supplier side. I've always kind of wanted to come into the supplier arena as well, because I just think you'll learn so much about what they do day to day, that if you are an in-house FM, it'll give you much more respect, understanding, knowledge, and will instantly, I think, knock down some of those old-fashioned barriers as well.
There's a happy medium, I think, where contractor can deliver, make a profit, and the client will be happy to spend the money. I guess be in control slightly, but there's always been that kind of, do we have to spend that? We don't want to spend that. I know that you're just potentially telling me that I need to spend that, but I don't feel like we do. I think crossing over, I think is a great idea. I think that I've been in recruitment for quite a few years now, and you do get more people on the service provider side wanting to try the in-house side because they feel that it looks easier, or they say, oh well, I want to be that person because we're all the guys and girls doing the donkey work, we're all doing the work, and they're kind of in charge of us, whereas I want to be that person telling the service provider what to do. That's kind of in layman's terms. And on the flip side, you get less people wanting to cross over from the in-house to the service provider side. But I think it adds so much value to one's experience and moving forward. If you've done both, I mean, amazing. Like you say,
I think this is the thing. So it's also understanding different parts of property. So when I left Inditex to go into Sixt car rental, one of the main drivers for that change was to be part of acquisitions. So I could see a whole job from actually going out and picking a site, making sure it's commercially viable to run our business from it, go through all the lease negotiations, then having to build the site, and then having to hand it over to operations, and then having to maintain it afterwards. It gives you a much wider picture of and it's on a macro scale. I mean, the car rental locations, but it gives you much more insight into the whole end-to-end life cycle sort of the property arena. And I think going over to supplier side brings that commerciality that I'm talking around as well.
Yeah.
And being able to articulate some of the difficult questions through a procurement cycle. So, you know, one of the things, and I think we're moving past it, but one of the things that everyone looked at was hourly rates. So £1 less here, £2 less there per hour. That was kind of, when you went out to ask for a maintenance supply, what's your rate card?
Yeah.
It didn't matter that one would take 2 hours to fix it and one would take an hour to fix it, but the one would take an hour to fix it was £36, and the one that's going to take 2 hours to fix it was £30 an hour.
Yeah.
You want it to be £30 an hour. I mean, commercially it makes no sense, but I think this is where also education for purchasers and suppliers is using the data that's now existing. You know, so what is your first time fix rate on average? You know, and what is your average spend per job? You hardly ever see those in any kind of tender document coming out to procure maintenance services.
Yeah.
You know, so it's benchmarking what you do today, sort of in-house. Then you should be able to benchmark that really easily with what the supplier is doing on average across all of the estates they manage. And then an hourly cost doesn't come into it. You know, it's total sort of package cost that comes into it. And I think that's where, again, when we're moving into this data-driven sort of environment at the moment. I think more suppliers could use more customers' data, and more customers should be collecting data to be able to give to the suppliers so they can do a better job and better service. And you should be talking around, what does it actually tell you you're good at, not so good at, where do you need support, etc., etc. Because through the whole purchasing process, you've got suppliers are having to build in risk and risk cost as well. So I think commercial side, going back over old ground, but I think is key to the next phase, and that partnership. I hate that word, but it, you know, working together is with your supply chain is absolutely key. But them actually working with you. Yeah. You know, I've seen so many suppliers scared of customer CAFMs and go, well, no, actually, do you know what? Ask for all of the information they will give you out of the CAFM system and use it to understand where you're not performing, and then start performing in those areas, because you can highlight and see maybe where you're wasting money on sending engineers and you're not sending the right engineers, and all of those things. I think the more that we work together on this, I think the better outcome we'll get.
Yeah, I agree. I massively agree. And do you think, I mean, when I first started recruitment, which is going back some now, in 2002, there was more in-house positions, particularly on the engineering side, so maintenance engineers, and we've seen a lot of outsourcing. Do you think we'll start to see more? Do you think we'll go full circle? Do you think it's happening now? Kind of, are we going back in-house? Is FM going back in-house?
It's really interesting, because I think there's always going to be a huge mix. If I'm perfectly honest, unless your business is about delivering maintenance, why do you want the in-house maintenance team? Okay. But on the outside, why do you also want all your eggs in one basket? Because if you've got it in-house, you've got a lot of people to manage, lots of overhead, lots of cost and everything else. Overall, it might be slightly cheaper, but again, you know, you've got a lot of business overheads to run that function properly, which don't really need to exist. So why would you put them onto the books? Going into full TFM, you've got the problem in my mind where one piece doesn't work, kind of impacts everything. And it's not interchangeable, and you're normally, in the politest way, you have to work the way the supplier wants to work, because they've got to manage so many people, so many buildings, and you are kind of dictated by what they currently do from systems. So me personally, I think this integrator model with some real flexibility is going to see where it was the old managing agent model. We've renamed it, called it integrator because it's more modern.
Yeah.
I personally think that that's an area that I would want to be involved with. That's where I would be looking to put my FM strategy, because I can have my help desk in-house, out-house, so outsourced. I can have my own CAFM system, buying one with completely open API links so I can integrate across the board. Really, really important. I can pick local suppliers. I can pick regional suppliers. I can have national M&E suppliers should I wish through the middle. And as things don't work and things don't and things fail or change, you've got this sort of been able to flex up and down really simply without having to change all the bits. So in my mind, I think you'll always have the two outliers, absolutely, and they will keep swapping backwards and forwards. I think this growth sector is about how you can connect the best in class bits together to produce a seamless service, but not one that you can't interchange the bits. I mean, let's be honest, you don't buy a car, I'm using a car analogy, you don't buy a car and the wheel not work and have to buy a whole new car.
Yeah.
You change the wheel. And that's why I think the integrator model has got some real growth potential in it.
Great. And how do you see, just I guess, digressing slightly, how do you think FM is going to change now because of the situation that we're all in with COVID and the pandemic? How do you think that's going to, we know it's changed in the short term, is this, and it's going to be for the next 6 months probably, let's face it, I reckon. Some people are saying the office is over, we're never going back. What's your opinion on that? What's your take?
The office is never going to disappear.
Yeah.
Will it change? Yeah, I think it will. But I think it was a change that was coming in the first place. I think this is accelerated change. I don't think it's changed change. So what do I see? So FM has a great chance to be. I was chatting about this the other day. If I've got 3,000 people working in the building, it's really easy to manage. Yeah, right. Kind of. I know where they are. I can sort of make sure the health and safety is right. Their desks are correct. They're all set up. They've got teas, coffees. I can kind of control the working environment as much as I can. You suddenly put those 3,000 people in their kitchens. What control have you got? Very limited. Yeah. You've got people with completely different circumstances. So our challenge now to make their workplace safe, enjoyable, and create something that keeps them sort of collaborating, performing, efficient, becomes much more complicated.
Yes.
So this is a real time in my mind that FM in some of these businesses can set up, get the ears of the board, drive through change. Because again, when we come back into the offices, which will happen, I don't think it'll be the same. So I think you'll have the people that want to run back to the office because they're fed up of being home and I just want to be in an office and I just want to go to work. It's the only place I can have adult conversation. There will be people that are scared about coming back. There'll be people that really enjoyed the flexibility. Yeah. So your office environment and your working sort of culture, I guess, is really important to support all of those different thoughts and feelings. And let's be perfectly honest, we've had a lot of people in offices still that've got to come in every day and do the same job every day because they're support desk staff, as an example. They've been going in, or suddenly they've been sent home with headsets and everything else, but they will definitely be going back. Some functions will always be office based. Yes. I think even through this, even though they've been done at home, I think they'll want to go back into the office. And I don't think we can lose the whiteboard collaboration time when everyone gets together, just bounces ideas off each other and starts writing up on the whiteboard. You can't do that on Zoom. No. It's really exciting. I think it's really exciting.
It is, yeah. I have to agree with pretty much everything that you've said. I think it's probably sped up that kind of process, that kind of where it was going anyway.
Yeah.
And it's kind of forced it upon us, and we've had to force the change very quickly. Well, like I say, I don't believe the office is dead. I came back as soon as I could, just to get out of the house because the kids and everything. But it's you can't get away from the desire and the need and the want to deal with people, see people, and have those little chit chats over the desk, or on the way to or in the kitchen, just kitchen chat, It's you can't have that on Zoom.
The only thing I hope that really gets rid of is presenteeism.
Mm-hmm.
And allows people to have a really, allowed to take their kids to school, allowed to go to the doctors without all of this kind of sort of pressure that I must be at my desk at 8 till 5. We all know the businesses that focus on output, focus on staff care and create great places to work, have better engagement, have better productivity, have higher retention rates of staff. I mean, this isn't something that's not been proved for a number of years, but I still think we've had a management structure that doesn't always see the world that way. And it's going to be really interesting when we go back. Are those managers that have had to adapt, change and learn from that old earth style sort of process where if you're not at your desk, I don't think you're working?
It's so true. Actually, the first person that's mentioned that, I think it's there's in so many business there is that kind of, you're in a, it's almost frowned upon that you've got to leave early to go and pick up your kid, or there's something's happened at home with the children, or I've now become a parent, I've got to kind of do the pickup or the drop off, and you're like, oh my God, it's so almost a bit nervous to ask your boss that, listen, I've got to now leave a bit early, I guess the initial thoughts are, well, I'll make up the time on on the weekend, or tomorrow I'll get in earlier to make up that time. Whereas really, as long as the job's getting done right, that's fine, go for it,
And I think, I've sat in businesses where people have gone, I can't believe how many people are leaving here at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, they're finished. Why can't they leave at 5 o'clock? They were in at 8:30 and they're leaving at 5 o'clock. And it was one lady that worked for me. She always left at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And one of the managers from the department was like, she always leaves early. I'm like, she doesn't leave early. She's in at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
She's leaving on time. I hope that's the one. I don't think we're going to have this mass sweeping change. I don't think the office is dead. I think it's going to be repurposed. I think it will be hopefully creating much more flexible space. In FM that could really drive some real good efficiencies, because wouldn't it be great if I'm sat at home, I do want to go to the office for 2 days, so I'm going to book my car parking space, I'm going to book my desk, I'm going to book my lunch, and that whole seamless working journey is kind of able to be done from sat at my desk, rather than driving a car in the morning. Can I get a car parking space? No, it's full. Now I've got to go and drive down side streets. I'm in the office, all the desks are taken up. You can really change the whole culture if you adopt this. Well, we're not flexible at the moment, we're kind of in one or the other, but I think if we get that flexible approach on our return, it's going to be better for everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree, massively agree. Cool. Listen, Adam, I've got one more question for you then before we finish up. What would your advice be to somebody who is climbing the ladder within the FM industry, somebody who's kind of been in there, maybe they've either chosen to be in there or fallen into the industry, they've been there 5 years, let's say? What would your advice to them be today?
So the one thing that I've learned over my time is talk to everyone and anyone, and understand what it is that you're doing for them.
Yeah.
And understand what's going well and not going well for them. But be that a department, be that a group of individuals, network within that business to understand what it is that you've got to look at changing to make it better. So often I see, and I've been guilty of this in the past, so it's not just seeing, it's experiencing it.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to kind of close my eyes and get this delivered. I think it's keep people engaged, keep communicating, get out there. You know, if you're going to introduce a CAFM system for facilities,
yeah,
great. But actually, if you're introducing a CAFM system to benefit all of your customers, isn't that better?
Mm-hmm.
So if they know, I want to introduce a CAFM because I want to track compliance, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, rather than the business has told me that, you know, the space utilization in row H green room is that they're feeling crowded, they don't understand why, etc., etc. They want to have some changes, they want some settings put in, blah 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 blah. You know, it gives you a much better sort of picture that you're talking as a multiple voices,
yeah,
rather than an individual department as well. And I think if I give anybody any advice, is get out there, learn and listen and understand your business, and then how you can help it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Adam, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
No worries, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Take care.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.